Hi guys, welcome to my new video. This is the second part of my Q&A and I'm filming this actually at the territory of a former archaeological museum in Tbilisi. Also, I wish I could show you this view of the city, but I don't know, I didn't expect that the sun will be shining so brightly. It's like 6 p.m. guys. Anyway, I'm here filming outside. This Q&A will be about Georgia, about living here as a Russian immigrant, and it is the second part of my Q&A series. If you haven't already, I recommend you to watch the first one where I was mostly talking about Russia, the situation there, about some news regarding my people I know in Russia and so on. I also recommend you to watch the third one, the next video, but here I am and it's so unusual that I also can walk here, I can even stand. Please like this video to promote it, subscribe to my channel, tap the bell to not miss other videos, and let's begin. So the first question is what part of the Russian culture are you still able to practice and which Georgian customs you already adopted? And honestly guys, I would say that my life hasn't changed much, because here in Tbilisi there is a big community of people like me, expat bubble, so there's no particular custom that I adopted, but overall I would say slow living. Well, I myself come from a small town in Russia, then I moved to a bigger city, Khabarovsk, but still it is in the far east of Russia, so it's not that hectic and busy like Moscow. So compared to the capital of Russia, Tbilisi is so chill and so cozy, and I enjoy a lot this fact that after my Georgian classes I usually go to a cafe and I can sit there outside in the terrace and I'm like, what? It is my usual routine. I'm sitting looking at the central street of a capital of the country, like wow, in Moscow it would feel as something very massive and grandiose because Moscow is a big city, but here it's so cozy, and I also like the fact that everything is so close to each other and you can move within the city really fast. So the language is a big part of the Russian culture for me, and probably food. I love Georgian cuisine, khinkali, but I also like simple Russian home cuisine like buckwheat, potatoes, and I also cook it here. And actually only here in Georgia I learned that as a Russian I'm supposed to like sirniki. It is pancakes made of cottage cheese, and in Tbilisi here there are many cafes opened by Russians for other Russians, and sirniki is like a staple dish. But it's funny how I didn't know about this dish. I never tried it when I was living in Russia. So yeah, I've become a big fan of sirniki. And another question is, what language do you speak the most in Georgia? Is your Georgian as good as your English? Of course not. My Georgian is like some basic phrases, so I can order a coffee, I obviously can read the letters, and I can ask a taxi driver to stop, but usually I speak Russian to taxi drivers. There was only one situation for the whole my time in Georgia when a taxi driver couldn't speak Russian. And it actually makes me to be proud of myself, because yes, I am communicating in 4 different languages on daily basis. I speak Russian with my friends and daily life. I speak English and watch English content and make videos in English. I speak Georgian sometimes, like ordering, buying something, and at my Georgian classes, and I speak German also at my German classes. But among these 4 languages, German is the one that I use the least. I think it's pretty cool. Like, I would never think that I would have this set of languages in my pocket. Like, in different times of my life, there were different languages, because at university I was studying English and Chinese. Also, occasionally I would study Turkish on Duolingo, but I already left it. But yeah, I just like languages. It is fun. Do you find the Georgians to be welcoming to the influx of Russians? And are there any type of social services available to those Russians in need? How well are Russian immigrants integrating in Georgia? Are there still tensions? Well, I would not say that I feel comfortable. I think Roman Novakers said it very well, that as a Russian you are walking here in Tbilisi with this constant guilt. Oh wow, guys, there is a plane. I want to look at this. I wonder where this plane is flying to. Maybe it's even flying to Russia or to some European country. Anyway, yeah, there is tension, and it can be otherwise because there are literally territories of Georgia occupied by Russia, and the Georgian government is influenced politically by the Russian government. This long history of colonization, erasing the Georgian culture and the language. Yes, I come across some negative comments online, or, well, these graffitis on the wall that say, like, no, Russians are welcome, or you're not a refugee, you are a terrorist. When I see this, I do feel that it is directed towards me, even though I'm this soy anti-Putin Zoomer Russian who agrees with the political views of the Georgian progressive people, but still somehow some of them see me as the enemy, as the representation of the worst that can come from Russia. But of course I acknowledge that it's not the majority of the population, and it is just the negativity bias, and I feel that, oh, everyone here is hating me. But no, because if we look at the facts, at what I got from Georgia, it is actually opposite. Recently I went to a hospital here. I usually go to clinics that is aimed specifically at Russian expats. The Russian and Georgian doctors speak in Russian, but recently, for some reason, I had to go to another like big private clinic, but it was like fully Georgian, and I had to make some medical tests in different like rooms. In every room the doctor spoke Russian to me, even though it's not even the official language, of course, of this country. And it's interesting to think how Russian still stays lingua franca at some post-Soviet countries, and how it remains here despite all the anti-Russian sentiment that I completely understand. And I have not met any, weird looks here. I heard some stories from my other Russian acquaintances. For example, one girl told me how she invited her mother from Russia to visit her in Georgia, and together with another friend who is Georgian, they went to a cafe here, and at that cafe they were playing the guitar and singing the song in Russian, but it was done very silently, so that even people at the nearby table could barely hear them. But still, some of these cafes' guests, Georgians, claimed to the waiter why these Russians are singing this song in Russian here. And then the waiter came up to this Russian friend and said to them to not sing that song. So there are some anecdotes like this that I heard from other people, but otherwise it's so unusual that despite these political tensions, I have not seen any acute conflicts here. As we have a special integration program, no, I've never heard of that. There are no programs like this funded by the government, but I heard that there is some non-profit organization. It is like a 10-month course on the Georgian language, the culture, the rules, and it is so cool. I even thought to apply for this, but I thought that maybe some other Russian citizens would need this more than me, because I'm going to leave Georgia anyway, and this program is completely free. That's why there's a limited amount of places, so I decided to not apply for this. But yeah, it's cool that such things exist. And speaking of myself, I don't have any Georgian friends. I know how it sounds. I would not recommend this to anyone. If you are emigrating to a country, of course, you better to have some local friends who will help you to understand the country. It is not my situation, although I tried to use Tinder to find both friends and maybe a girlfriend, but it was unsuccessful for me. But I think I will talk about this in my next video, which will be more personal. Also, it is very frustrating to live in a country, keeping in mind that I am temporary here. I want to have more stability, but I know that I will leave Georgia anyway. I don't see my future here at all. Another question is, do you have concerns about the Georgian government, that they might start acting like the Russian government and suppress political activists? And yeah, here's the time to talk about this foreign agents law. Basically, it is a copy of the law that was passed in Russia in 2013. And since that time has been becoming only worse, so that now in Russia even charity organizations, some non-profit organizations can be considered undesirable or foreign agents. Basically, they cannot continue their activity. So what happens is that the Georgian government, which is again tied to Russia, has passed a similar law, even though there have been huge protests in the recent months, and it is obvious to everyone that Georgian people don't want it. But still, they passed this law, and now there are conversations about LGBT repressions as well, and they are going to do the same that was in Russia. And maybe you think that, oh no, you're just panicking, you're just this soy zoomer who wants to hate everything that is connected to Russia. But if you read this law about these so-called traditional values, you will see where it goes. You will see that like in 5 or 10 years, it might be worse. I'm so sorry that this is happening here in Georgia. There also was a question, wow, look at this background. There also was a question, is this law aimed at me because I am a foreigner here? But no, you see, this law will be aimed mostly at the Georgian non-profit organizations like charities or the ones that help women to escape the domestic abuse. I know that this law will not affect me. What about all of these Russians in Georgia who fled Russia? Are any of them supporting the Georgian independence movement against the Russian Dream Party? Or do they just continue to support the imperialism of the Russian state? I feel that we Russian citizens who moved here to Georgia mostly were like the best of the best. I mean, of course, there are very good, decent people who stayed in Russia, but I have not met any Z person. Yeah, there are might be some people who moved to Georgia from Russia to just avoid the conscription and go into the war, which is already good. Maybe these people are those who are sitting on the fence and didn't protest the Russian government before so strongly. But still, another very common narrative I heard is that if now there will be many Russians in Georgia, Putin will use this as an excuse to invade Georgia. But here's the thing that you have to understand. In the discourse of the Russian propaganda, the one that they show to our citizens on the TV, people like me, like Roman, like Zach, like Alina, we are traitors for them. They literally call us rats. They call us soy liberals on the TV who betray their motherland. They say that it's good that people like myself left the country, and even I often get comments from Z Russians that say don't return to Russia. There was a situation when Putin did use the Russian population as an excuse, which was in the eastern Ukraine, in the Donbas region. Yes, but us, it's not like this. The conclusion is rather doom. Putin doesn't need a reason to invade a country. Maybe I'm just excusing myself too much, but honestly, I don't think that my presence in Georgia is making any danger to this country. Another question is, what happens when your international passport expires? Is it possible that the government will refuse to renew it? It's a very interesting question because I still have some years before the expiration of my passport, and now it is still possible to get a new one in the thing that is called a Russian interest section at the Embassy of Switzerland in Tbilisi. But I'm scared that in some years it might be impossible because we better study the example of Belarus. What is happening for their citizens? Hey! Wow! Such a positive moment on such a negative note. But yeah, what's happening to the citizens of Belarus is that they just cannot renew their documents, their passports, without returning to the country. And you know, many of them, as well as Russians, might face criminal persecution once they go to the territory of the country. So it is really hard to live with the realization that your government wants to kill you. Your government that is supposed to help you abroad, to be your friend, they are a danger. They are the main danger for you. Wow, there are 3 guys now. Oh my God. Also a question, where can you travel without a visa? Well, I can go to many Southeast Asian countries, Latin America, Central Asia, African countries, Middle East, but none of them are on my list. Funny. There is another interesting question about Georgia. What is the big difference between Russians and Georgia's mentality? And I don't like the word mentality when speaking about different peoples, especially in Russian, this word mentalitet. People say that it is just our mentality and climate. Yeah, they blame the climate and the fact that Russians are lazy and being ruled by an authoritarian leader is also in our genes, which is a complete nonsense. But probably the first obvious thing that comes to my mind speaking about Georgian people is their hospitality. But here I want to make a disclaimer because I feel bad about this stereotype because, well, there is a huge problem. The political influence and the tension that exists here in Georgia towards Russians. I wish I was a Georgian person who would experience this hospitality from the first hand, but I only can see it as a tourist and as a young girl. And of course, I'll be treated nicely, and I am treated nicely here. I, as I said, never had any rudeness. I remembered only one drunk man in a restaurant, but I don't count that. You know, it's like being Lao Wai in China. You will never be a local here. I don't want to idealize and say that, oh, like they're so kind, because, well, we can't say this about any nation. And I don't want to look like this traditional Orthodox Americans who moved to Russia with their 10 children and start YouTube channel filming washed Moscow streets and saying how everything is so perfect. And Russian people, they might be cold at the first sight, but once you get to know them better, you see their true Russian soul. And this is so cringy, disgusting. I think it's some like cringy boomer attitude. Like, obviously you can say this about any country, but having said that, I still want to give appreciation to the Georgian hospitality because it is a thing, and Georgians are very proud of this. And in their like legends, a guest is a god. I feel I didn't say enough because, well, it is difficult for me to assess this hospitality, but why not to talk about this as my experience as a guest? And I see this warmness in the Georgian people's attitude towards me. For example, when I buy something in Georgian, but they hear that I'm Russian, very often they switch to the Russian language so that it's more convenient to me. And very often they cheer me up, compliment my attempts to say something. They say like, good job. And it is so pleasant to hear this. There are still some difference that I don't know how to explain, but one of them is attitude to children, because it is a very family-oriented culture and people care about children here so much. So if you're looking for these notorious traditional values, you can find them in Georgia. And also it is common to keep connections with your relatives and to visit them. And one Georgian girl told me that cousins also considered as your siblings, so that it is not uncommon to visit weddings or holidays of your cousins. So they are treated as a very close family. But I don't want to idealize this country and say that, oh, the family values, because like the same Georgian girl told me about abuse that she saw in her family, how her father was beating her, or it is well known how
Georgian men cheat on their women. Well, probably women cheat on their husbands too, but more often it's men. And yeah, I mean, it's like everywhere, but at the same time, family has so much meaning here.
And also another difference in the mentalities, and I think it's as well connected to the idea of hospitality, is the fact that Georgia is a very small country on the intersection of different nations and trade routes. Being friendly and hospitable was the only way for Georgian people to survive basically for centuries. Of course, they also were fighting because there are many castles and fortresses. I'm trying to think what it's like to live in such a small country when everybody visits you, sometimes with violence, and you have to navigate these difficult intergovernmental relationships, and you have to be open to other countries. That's why many Georgians here, young people, know English very well. Some of them know Russian, but mostly it's the elderly people. And I think it is another difference compared to Russia, where you are basically in a huge country. It definitely does something to your worldview when you grow up in such a big country, because of course I was told at school that Russia is so great, Russia expanded to the east, Russia conquered Kazan and settled in the Far East, not just colonized and erased the native people. No, we settled there and we brought our civilization. Is Georgia more liberal than Russia, and why? Well, despite the close connections to the Russian government, still Georgia for me is just bastion of democracy compared to Russia. I was so shocked that I can go to protest here when I moved here in 2022. I'm so shocked that there are no yet homophobic laws, and even there's an LGBT movies section on Netflix, and you can watch movies that depict non-hetero relationships there. And I was like, wow, it would be so cool if I came across this like 10 years ago in Russia. And we also can answer this question by looking at the rating of press freedom. Russia is 162. Well, yes, not surprised. Georgia is 103, and Armenia, I was shocked, 43rd place. Like, wow, Armenia turns out to be even more like liberal and freer than Georgia. The next question is about Tbilisi. What do I love about this city the most? And I would say that I love the comfort that this city gives me, and also the fact that Georgia, being a post-Soviet country, looks so familiar to me. So these houses, I'm used to seeing them, but at the same time the historical center is very beautiful and looks so medieval. And there was another question: what are the funniest and fun things that you've seen in Georgia? One of them is probably dogs, as you might have heard. Well, it is sad that there are so many of them, but at the same time it gives some atmosphere to the city. I hope in the future there will be better programs for the stray animals and there will be fewer of them, but yeah, now there are so many dogs still. Another thing I would say is illegal home extensions. Like, there is a meme trending now on TikTok and Instagram about a guy John who is making an apartment out of like 1 square meter, and he's using this galvanized steel frame and screws borrowed from his aunt. So having watched all these TikToks, I once saw the same but with the Georgian houses, and I was like, oh my god, so accurate. Because here in Georgia, I don't know how it is now, but maybe 10 or 20 years ago it was more common when people would add up an attic to their house without obviously agreeing it with the authorities. Or there's a house in the Varkitila district where a whole entrance is basically collapsing and they built some things to keep it up. It is so crazy, but yeah. And another thing I would point out is Georgian store names. that are dubbed in English, and it is very cool. I think I will even show you one example. You see right here, so in Georgian it's called array, and there is some small plate saying tomorrow, and to the left it is like a transcription of this word by Georgian letters. So literally, if you read it, it is arai, and even the word tomorrow is transcribed, so it is literally tomorrow. And here is another example. So this store, it's called Pepela, and I've just pronounced it with the hard Georgian P sound because there is another one, soft P sound. Oh wow, check out this cool graffiti there. I also got a question, was it difficult for me to learn the Georgian alphabet? And well, with this technique that I invented for myself, it is so easy. You just see the name written in English already, and if you are in the process of learning the letters, you will understand this, and it is so cool. I would recommend this to you. If you are in Georgia and you want to learn the language, you can use this method. It sounds like, given your passport and visa situation, you can go to Western countries. Are you basically going to settle in Georgia? Are there enough opportunities to make a living? Well, as for me, I can make a living here, and I'm so grateful to this country that I managed to set up the individual entrepreneurship here, and I pay just 1% of tax. Can you imagine? I am well off here in Georgia, but as for continuing living here, as I said, it is just impossible for me. With the direction that country is moving to now, again, coming closer to Russia, adopting more oppressive authoritarian laws. And well, anyway, if I wanted to stay in Georgia, I would be so hard on studying Georgian, but I don't have motivation to it. I have been doing this for half a year now, wow, but I only can order coffee, and I have a big fear of missing out, that I'm basically wasting my time here. I'm not kind of investing my time and my energy into getting a passport of an EU country. I'm just living here because so far it is comfortable for me, but I'm paying for this comfort with some FOMO as well. Has Georgia changed the way you want to live, or do you try to move the life you would have pursued in a free Russia to Georgia? For example, here in Georgia, I just like to participate in some short educational programs. I once visited a human rights school here when we went to a 2-day workshop, and I learned so much about human rights. I became more tolerant. Also, I visited a debate school with the same organization. I often visit public discussions or some movie screenings, and I think I would do the same in Russia. And what is more, I meet so many cool people here in Georgia. I mean, Russian citizens like myself, and probably I wouldn't be even able to meet them if I lived in Russia. So yeah, this is the life that I kind of created for myself. And also Georgia and being an immigrant here changed my opinion about immigrants, because I would say some stuff like, oh, why these working immigrants from Uzbekistan and Tajikistan come to our country, they're committing crimes like blah blah blah, which is totally not true. And well, Russian immigration policy is a nightmare, and I mean, how the Russian government is doing nothing to integrate these people. There are labor slaves, and there is no programs for integrating immigrants in Russia. There must be like free learning courses of the Russian language, but this all is not present there. And now I have nothing but respect to immigrants who come to another country, and they're so hardworking. They manage to build their new life, learn a new language. So yeah, my attitude changed. Where do you want to be in 5 years? And if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live and why? Well, as I said in my previous video, ideally I would like to be in Russia, speak in the Russian language, and of course it would be possible only with another regime. And in 5 years I think I will be in some European country. The only variant I have is Portugal, because they have a good digital visa program. I don't know any other opportunities. Yes, there is a possibility to apply to some university in Germany, for example. But honestly, I feel so stupid. Like, I don't understand the academia world and I don't see myself in any field. Yes, I said it in my videos 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but really my only job is this YouTube channel, and I have some skills in editing. I have also filming experience, but I'm not a professional in this. I make a lot of mistakes and I don't want to be like in the filming industry, and I don't know what I am good for. I feel completely useless. Yes, a typical YouTuber. But I kind of already fought this imposter syndrome, and I realized that making videos is also not easy, and if it is a job that gives me satisfaction and good income, why not to continue to do this? So now I'm in this stage of my life when I just want to continue making videos, whether it will be about Russia, news from there, my travel, my Russian experience of other countries. And I feel that my linguistics bachelor's degree from a university in Khabarovsk is so useless. Like, the quality of that education, I feel that I would want to get some decent education, not from a Russian university with Soviet programs. I am interested in sociology, in anthropology as well, social studies, I think, yes. I also got some questions, would you want to live in the United States? And I would say no, but I would change my answer if I just was presented an opportunity to have a green card there, because I know so many people who moved there and built their life. It is a dream of an immigrant. Yes, people say that American dream is dying out, and I'm aware of the housing crisis, but still, you know, from us, people from Eastern Europe who have seen shit, still the opportunities that the United States give, it's still amazing. The only problem I have is the anxiety that the gun situation has given me. I heard that there are areas that you must not visit because it's dangerous. And also another reason why I would not live in the United States is suburbia and car dependency of American cities. And again, I feel so incompetent, like I don't understand the corporate world. A good friend of mine constantly tells me about her attempts of finding a job, but she has a degree in marketing, business, accounting, all this stuff. I don't understand anything. I don't know, guys. I don't know what I will be doing at this point. I will just make money from YouTube, save up, and hope that somehow I will not die under a fence. But still, I'm so scared to move to another country now because, well, I have been living in Georgia for a year and a half now. I know the places specifically for Russian immigrants. I am already used to this country. And to go through the whole process of moving to another country again, like, I know that I will be able to do this. I know that I have money from this channel and I'm strong to do this. And also studying Georgian made me to understand that it would be so easy for me to study some European language that at least comes from the same language family as Russian. And if I'm learning Georgian just for fun, if I go to Portugal, I think it would be easier and more possible to integrate into the local society and speak in the language there. I'm also scared that what if I move to some European country, there will be not many Russian immigrants like myself, because Georgia being so comfortable for us, here there are a lot of people like myself, but in another country, like, will I have to become a Portuguese, read the local news, participate in their elections? Like, it would be such a hard work to learn the country's history, and I don't know if I ever will be able to feel at home there. I don't know when I eventually will end up in some EU country or maybe in the United States, but so far I'm here. Well, my camera battery is exhausted, but luckily I'm able to continue filming from my phone. I want to answer another question, like why am I not asking for a political asylum in the United States or Europe? And well, guys, this is my last resort, because like I'm aware of all these stories from the refugee camps in the Netherlands, or how you have to cross a border to the United States from Mexico through some underground tunnels and dirty rivers, and it sounds all so scary, and honestly I don't want to do that. Also, there was a question, what European country I would love to visit. Who's there? I think there's some rabbits or a snake. What European country I would like to visit if I could? And well, I have some news, because as you know from my videos, I recently got a Georgian residence permit, which enables me to apply for a Schengen visa from Georgia without having to go to Russia. No, but who are you? I need to know what kind of animal has been accompanying me. Guys, do you hear this? Maybe it is a frog? No. Okay, they're shy. And speaking of my travel to Europe, yes, I am going to try to get there just as a tourist. And now I'm in the process of applying. I will make a video about this as well. And speaking of countries that I want to visit, oh my god, all of them. I would like to see Greenland, which is like Denmark, but I found out that you cannot visit it with a Schengen visa. Also, I would like to see Poland. I don't know why, but just like Slavic brotherhood, and also I had some experience of hearing Polish language when I was in the Warsaw airport, and Scandinavian countries as well. I don't know, for some reason the south of Europe is not on my list yet, because you know I have a very limited time, but I will update you on that in my videos later. Stay tuned. Every cloud has a silver lining, and now, oh my god, look at this. So this is the end of my video. I hope that it was interesting. Thank you for watching. If you want to support my channel, you can go by the links in the description. You can become my patron, my YouTube sponsor, and support me by other means listed there. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your support, guys. And I will see you very soon. Goodbye. Пока-пока.